First of all, let me say that this is a horrifically cruel true story. Therefore, I recommend that those of you under 18, especially girls, should not watch today's story. Although, when this brutal incident happened, the girl was only 8 years old. The name of this movie is A Girl from Mogadishu. This film is based on a cruel and barbaric true story from Somalia. I can only say that after hearing this true story, your heart will tremble. So, let's learn about a cruel true incident that happened to the girls of Somalia. Before starting today's story, there are a few things you need to know. First, the entire story of this movie is narrated by the main character, Ifrah, in a European court. Second, you will repeatedly hear the term FGM in this story, which is the central theme. FGM stands for female genital mutilation. To briefly explain, it involves cutting and sewing up the genitalia of young girls with a blade so that on their wedding day, their husbands can see that they are solid. It is important to note that FGM is not a religious practice, it is a cultural tradition in Africa, particularly prevalent in Somalia, where 98% of girls undergo this procedure. People of all religions in the region have adhered to this custom for generations, therefore, this practice is not linked to any religion. Now, let's proceed to the main story. At the beginning of the story, we see an old past where several Somali girls of the same age are playing. They are very happy and cheerful. These girls are between 7 to 10 years old. Soon, an elderly man arrives. A woman hands him a blade. Another blade is being heated in the fire. The woman calls one of the girls, Ifrah, who is the main character of our story. The woman is Ifrah's grandmother. She gives Ifrah a gold chain and tells her to go into a small room. Then, we hear a sorrowful scream. The scene then shifts to several years later. This is Mogadishu, the capital of Somalia. At that time, Somalia was in the midst of a civil war. People are running around trying to survive. The girl you see now is Ifrah, running desperately to save her life. Ifrah can't run anymore, so she hides behind a wall. From there, she manages to run towards her house to save herself. Finally, she sees her father. Ifrah's brother is also present there. Ifrah says in her story, "That day, I saw my brother for the last time." Ifrah's father and brother set out with weapons, while Ifrah hides on the second floor of their house. An eerie silence follows. Ifrah waits anxiously for her father amidst the sounds of heavy gunfire outside. She repeatedly peeks out the window to understand the situation but cannot see any of her family members. She closes the window in frustration. At that moment, she hears a sound. Someone is standing in the distance. Then, 3 more people join. They are all rebels. These 4 men brutally torture Ifrah throughout the day. The scene then shifts to Ifrah's grandmother returning home. She brings a local doctor with her. The doctor stitches up Ifrah's wound again. The girl writhes in pain. The doctor shows a piece of paper to Ifrah and says, "Your aunt in America has given a number on this letter. If you get a chance, you should leave this country." The next day, Ifrah takes the number to the local market to call her aunt. Ifrah waits outside the shop while her uncle talks to Ifrah's aunt in America on the phone. Ifrah's aunt has arranged for Ifrah to go abroad and has also sent some money. When the conversation ends, Ifrah's uncle informs her that she must travel from there to the Ethiopian border and then to Addis Ababa. An agent of her aunt will be waiting there to take her to America. Her uncle tells her that if she wants to go, she must leave immediately. They both head towards the bus stand, but when they arrive, they find that there are no seats available on any bus. It is the last bus going to the Ethiopian border. Ifrah's uncle pleads with the bus driver, but no one agrees to take her because there are no empty seats. Meanwhile, rebels start causing trouble there. Taking advantage of the chaos, Ifrah climbs onto the roof of the bus. Her uncle advises her to keep her head down and stay hidden. After saying goodbye to her, her uncle leaves. The bus travels along the coastal road towards the Ethiopian border. In the middle of the night, the bus suddenly stops at a checkpoint, which turns out to be a rebel checkpoint. Everyone is forced off the bus and threatened that if they don't hand over their money, the rebels will harm the women. Reluctantly, everyone gives their money to the rebels. Ifrah sees everything from her hidden spot on the roof of the bus. The bus then starts moving again. As the darkness of night fades and the morning light breaks, the bus is still traveling on the winding jungle roads towards the Ethiopian border. Ifrah now climbs down from the roof and sits inside the bus. The bus finally arrives at the Ethiopian border. From here, another bus will take the passengers to Addis Ababa. Everyone gets off the bus and boards the new one. The bus starts heading towards Addis Ababa. From the beginning, a man has been flirting with Ifrah, but she ignores him. After traveling all day, the bus reaches Addis Ababa at night. Most of the passengers on this bus are being trafficked to various Middle Eastern countries. Ifrah takes the opportunity to escape. She then goes to a house based on the address she has. Ifrah waits there for 2 days. Then, a man named Hassan arrives. Hassan will take Ifrah from here to America. They both leave for the airport in a taxi. Hassan tells Ifrah, "Cover your face, like a good Muslim girl." Ifrah complies. Then Hassan tells her, "Listen to me carefully. This is your passport. After we reach the airport, you will follow me from a distance. You must not look like you are with me. If you get caught at immigration, you don't know me, and I don't know you." They both arrive at the airport. Hassan easily completes immigration. Ifrah is at the very end of the line, feeling extremely scared. She hands her passport and ticket to the immigration officer, who looks at her face and then gives her the passport and boarding pass. Ifrah has never been outside her city before, so she struggles to understand the rules and procedures of the airport. However, she tries her best. Finally, following Hassan, Ifrah boards the plane. Hassan takes Ifrah's passport from her, as it is a fake passport. Ifrah sits in the seat in front of Hassan. Unfamiliar with airplane etiquette, she mimics the other passengers. Time passes this way. The plane lands at an airport. Hassan returns the passport to Ifrah. She asks if they have arrived in America. Hassan says no, it's a transit stop, and they will go through immigration again. Once again, Ifrah follows Hassan from a distance. Ifrah submits her passport to the immigration officer. From the background, Ifrah says, "At that moment, I felt I would get caught, but luck was on my side." Ifrah waits again to board another plane. Hassan gives her some food, but Ifrah doesn't know how to eat it because she has never seen such food in her life. Ifrah boards the plane again. Everything is a new experience for her. She is very tired and falls asleep without realizing it. The plane reaches its final destination. After disembarking, Ifrah continues to follow Hassan. This is Ifrah's final immigration. The officer looks at Ifrah's passport and says, "Welcome to our country." Ifrah thinks it's America, but Hassan informs her that it's actually Dublin, the capital of Ireland. Ifrah's aunt had arranged for Hassan to bring her here because America is currently not allowing Africans to enter. In Ireland, Ifrah can seek political asylum. Hassan takes Ifrah towards the American embassy in Ireland. On the way, Hassan explains to Ifrah that she needs to request political asylum at the embassy and that she must do it on her own. However, Ifrah feels scared about everything. She repeatedly asks Hassan for help. They arrive in front of the American embassy in Dublin. From here, Ifrah and Hassan part ways. Ifrah keeps looking back at Hassan. It is snowing heavily outside. Fearfully, Ifrah enters the embassy. The receptionist asks her, "What is your name?" But Ifrah doesn't know English. The receptionist tries various African languages, and finally, Ifrah understands. She hands the receptionist a note given to her by Hassan. Ifrah wants political asylum in this country. Through a Somali translator on the phone, the embassy staff learns Ifrah's entire story. The process for Ifrah's asylum begins. Since Ifrah cannot write, her fingerprints are taken. Volunteers help Ifrah as much as they can. They then take her to a place where many asylum seekers are staying. There, Ifrah finds another Somali girl, and they share a room. Everything about this environment is completely new to Ifrah. Just think about where Ifrah was a few days ago. From the next day begins Ifrah's journey to adapt to the new culture. Except for a few Somalis, no one understands Ifrah's language. Through her new friend, Ifrah expresses her desire to learn and communicate. The scene changes, and Ifrah is taken to a hospital for a medical checkup. The Somali translator, who had translated Ifrah's story over the phone that day, is already waiting there. He has come to do the same job today. He explains to Ifrah what each test is and why they are being done. Ifrah undergoes blood test, HIV test, and many other tests. She is somewhat scared. Then her pregnancy test is done, and one final test remains. A doctor needs to examine her genital area. Ifrah is prepared accordingly. The doctor tries to comfort her mentally. But when they begin the examination, all the doctors present become completely silent. Ifrah is taken outside, her eyes are filled with tears. Then 2 doctors and the translator come to Ifrah. The male doctor says through the translator, "I'm leaving now." She is a female gynecologist. "Tell her your story in detail." The female doctor then asks through the translator how this happened. Ifrah, somewhat angrily, she says, "This is not something to be surprised about. This is the fate of African, especially Somalian girls." Ifrah breaks down in tears. No one there has the words to comfort her. The atmosphere becomes heavy with Ifrah's crying. She can't say anything more to anyone that day. The next day, the embassy informs Ifrah that all her medical test reports are good and no serious diseases have been detected. Upon hearing this, Ifrah feels a bit relaxed. She is chatting with her Somali friend there. At one point in the conversation, she reflects with sadness, saying, Somali girls face 3 major hardships in their lives. The first is during circumcision, the second is on the wedding night, and the third is when we give birth. As she speaks, the girls start to cry. The scene changes to Ifrah and other girls attending English language classes. They are initially taught basic communication English. Ifrah gradually learns to write her name in English. Over time, Ifrah becomes quite proficient in English and performs well in exams. Her teacher appreciates her a lot. Ifrah also learns computers faster than others. They now speak in English among themselves. Ifrah's determination is unwavering. She wants to learn English well enough to share her life story with the world. She also learns various words related to her story. There were many words she didn't know and learns their English equivalents through Google. From the following day, Ifrah starts to tell her life story to everyone in her broken English. She says, that day, not only did I undergo FGM, but 3 of my cousins also did. We were all placed inside a small hut. I was only 8 years old at the time. I was very excited because there was a celebration outside. I still remember that the person who performed our FGM was one of our uncles, and all the arrangements were made by my grandmother. One by one, everyone was taken into the room. Periodically, I could hear a piercing scream. I was very scared, but I knew there was nothing I could do. My grandmother tied everyone's legs to the bed so we couldn't move. They kept us tied for 40 days and 40 nights, so we couldn't move. The worst thing is the pain, when you have to wee, with your legs that are tied, and you have to lie there on one side, and you can't go to the toilet. I can't even begin to describe the intense pain. Among the cousins who underwent FGM together, one of them died due to an infection. She screamed in agony, but it did no good. In the end, she lost the battle to life. Ifrah's eyes fill with tears, and the listener's eyes also become misty. Ifrah, with a tearful voice, says, "This is not just my story, it's our story." Gradually, Ifrah and her story become popular worldwide. Ifrah is now a public figure, the only woman in the world speaking against FGM on the international stage. She has many followers and has transformed herself significantly. She now understands how to navigate the modern world and is very confident. Ifrah's movement gained solidarity from hundreds of women in Ireland. When President Barack Obama visits Ireland, Ifrah is invited to the event. During his speech, Ifrah holds up her movement's placard and repeatedly shouts, "We want justice." Ifrah continues, "After that, everyone becomes busy interviewing me. I start giving interviews to various international media outlets every day. I am invited as a special guest to every international conference. I am featured on every national television alongside women like us. But even then, we are not yet citizens of Ireland." Watching the program on television, I tell my friend, if my grandmother sees this program, she will surely kill me. My story of coming from Somalia is regularly broadcast on Irish television channels. Even the President of Ireland notices my story. Everyone around me begins to appreciate me greatly. Even the street police now recognize me and want to take pictures with me. I receive invitations from various European countries and continue to speak at conferences. A global injustice is being addressed. My first success comes in Ireland, where a bill against FGM is passed in the Irish court. I am officially honored in Ireland. 1 week later, there is more good news. All Somali refugee girls are granted Irish citizenship. Now, they are all Irish citizens. The Irish government organizes a special ceremony for them. Ifrah and her friends are very happy. After the event, Ifrah's friend says, "I want to go to Milan first." Ifrah replies, "I want to go to America first to see my aunt." They both are thrilled and excited, shouting, "We are now citizens of Ireland." But when Ifrah returns home and checks her laptop, her face falls. She receives threatening messages from many Somalis because of her activism. Seeing these messages, Ifrah starts crying. Her friend then says, "Don't worry about this. Look, your aunt has sent you a message too." Ifrah begins to read her aunt's message. "Dear Ifrah, I am glad to hear that you have become a citizen of Ireland. I am moving from America to Somalia. Many of our family members are missing. Your brother has died in the war, and one of your sisters is now in Italy. I have learned that your father has registered his name in a shelter. I am going there to find everyone. By the time you read this message, I will have already left for Mogadishu. Stay safe, as your activism is not well received by your country's people and your family members." Ifrah continues in the background, "Among all these issues, do you know what the good news for me was? My father is still alive. So, at that moment, I decided that no matter what, I had to go back to Mogadishu." In the next scene, we see Hassan, who had helped Ifrah reach Ireland, following her from a distance. When Ifrah is out with her friend, she receives a call on her phone. She learns that Turkish Airlines and UNICEF are sponsoring her flight to Mogadishu and paying her to write a report on FGM. Overjoyed by this news, Ifrah is ecstatic. At that moment, Hassan approaches from behind and calls out to her. Hassan says, "This is your final warning. Good girls don't talk so much, they always stay quiet. If you want what's best for yourself and your family, you need to keep quiet from now on. You are insulting your country and your culture." Ifrah responds, "I will not be silenced, not now, not ever, not even for my family. I am not afraid of anyone. And what will you do if I don't listen to you?" Hassan replies, "Then I'll sew your lips shut." With that, Hassan leaves. Ifrah's friend arrives shortly afterward, and Ifrah runs to her. Her friend asks, "What happened? What was he saying to you?" The scene changes as Ifrah receives a call on her phone. Today, she is setting out for Mogadishu. On the other end of the line, she is informed that the issue of FGM will be brought before the European Court, and she will need to testify about her life story. This news brings a smile to Ifrah's face before she returns to her home country. From the background, Ifrah says, "This is the first time I'm flying legally, and truly representing myself." Ifrah arrives in Mogadishu, where a UNICEF vehicle is waiting for her. A volunteer worker provides her with security and takes her to a refugee camp. About 10,000 Somalis have sought refuge here, and the number continues to grow. Ifrah changes her attire slightly, wanting to blend in as she speaks to the locals, as she is a Somali herself and does not want to appear as a foreigner. She is then transported by car to the main camp, which consists of hundreds of small huts. As she walks around, she greets people and inquires about her father by mentioning his name, hoping someone might recognize him. Despite her efforts, no one seems to know her father. Ifrah asks many people, but in the end, she is unable to find him. Ifrah sees two young girls playing a bit farther away. Their playful laughter reminds her of her own childhood. With a smile, she approaches them and begins to play with them, mimicking their joyful antics. The girls inform Ifrah that they are excited for an upcoming event next Friday, which they see as a festival where they will receive new clothes as gifts. Ifrah, while smiling and bidding them farewell, is deeply troubled inside. She realizes that the very issue she is fighting against will happen right before her eyes next Friday. She wants to save these little girls from the same fate. Ifrah then returns to her hometown, the place where she grew up. Outside her old house, she finds her father sitting. Ifrah approaches him slowly. Her father initially doesn't recognize her, but as soon as he sees her face, he realizes that it's his daughter. He embraces Ifrah, and she weeps heavily. Her father then takes her inside the house, which feels very familiar to her. And you people know very well why the place is very familiar to her. Her father tells her that her grandmother is very ill and is resting in the next room. Ifrah goes to see her grandmother. She softly calls out to her grandmother, who, after a second call, wakes up, and upon seeing Ifrah, becomes very angry. She says, "I know why you're here. You must have come to ask why I cut you. I have no answers for your questions. You just leave." In the background, Ifrah says, "I truly wanted to ask my grandmother these questions, but I couldn't." Ifrah leaves her grandmother's room with a heavy heart and heads directly to the Somali Ministry of Women and Human Rights. The minister, who knows her well, welcomes her warmly. Ifrah has come to seek help for the two girls who are scheduled to undergo FGM next Friday. However, the minister tells her bluntly that it is part of their country's culture and that he cannot influence ordinary people on this matter. With a heavy heart and frustration, Ifrah leaves the ministry. She has dinner with her parents at their home, where her father, somewhat angrily, asks her about the work that keeps her from staying with them. Ifrah shows her passport to her father and explains, "I did not come here as a Somali, I came as an Irish citizen. I have responsibilities to uphold." She then leaves from there, leaving her parents feeling deeply troubled and heartbroken. Ifrah stands beside the familiar waters early in the morning, her eyes filled with tears as she reflects on old memories. She then goes directly to her grandmother's room. Sitting quietly, Ifrah finally asks her grandmother, "Grandma, what was all this cutting about? What was it for? My mother had to go through it, as did I and my younger sister. The future generations here are destined for the same fate. Why is it necessary? What is the reason behind it?" Her grandmother simply responds, "It's the tradition." Ifrah presses further, "What kind of tradition? Who created this tradition?" She starts crying, and her grandmother holds her close to offer comfort. The scene shifts to Friday. Ifrah, with some dollars in hand, heads towards the refugee camp. She first tries to convince the mother of the two girls about the harms of FGM. However, the camp's doctor tries to dismiss her, telling the women not to listen to her. The girls are taken into a small room, and their mothers join them inside. Ifrah discreetly follows them into the room and tries to persuade them, but her efforts are ignored. Determined, Ifrah offers them $100 each if they agree not to have their daughters undergo FGM. For the families, $100 is a substantial amount. Everyone agrees to her offer, but Ifrah insists on a formal promise. She brings out a Quran and asks them to swear on it. The doctor and the guardians touch the Quran and make their pledge. Ifrah then distributes the money, saving the lives and childhoods of the two young girls. Ifrah has been telling her entire life story in the European court. She finishes her speech by saying, "I want my life story to be a fantasy, not a reality for African girls. Let FGM end." Everyone in the parliament applauds. The court announces that from today, February 6th, is International Zero Tolerance for FGM Day. Representatives from all the countries present stand up and applaud. The Somali ambassador is also there. He stands up and says to everyone, her name is Ifrah Ahmed. Now she is a citizen of Ireland. He then looks at Ifrah and says, "Ifrah, even though you are an Irish citizen, you will always be a girl from Mogadishu to me." Saying this, he hugs Ifrah, and she smiles a victorious smile. The applause breaks out all around. And this is how the true story ends. This is the real Ifrah. The Somali government brings her back to her homeland in 2014 to completely end FGM in their country. It is then said that the truth is, there are still 3 million children at risk of FGM. 200 million women live with the scars of FGM. Ifrah and her foundation hope to free Africa from this curse by 2030. Let me know in the comments how you feel about this harsh reality. And please pray for them, so that these girls in Africa can be freed from this curse, because, still 90% of girls there face this fate. So, take care everyone, stay healthy, stay well, goodbye for today.